What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Winning at Work, career boosting conversations with HR's leading voices. And we are joined with Wendy Dailey. Say hey, Wendy.
Hello, hello. So
Th-
excited to be here.
Thanks. I'm so glad you're here too. Wendy, you are the co-host. I'll say you're the better half because John's not here. Uh, Better half of the HR Social Hour half hour podcast.
Love it.
One of my good friends in the blogger sphere, social media sphere. You also have your own blog. I love
Yep.
reading your five things list. And today we're going to be talking about how people can win at work through communication. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm excited
Awesome.
to talk about it.
Awesome. So let's set some ground rules for folks who are tuning in, and people pop in and pop out. But while you're listening, if you have any questions for us about about communication, you can go ahead and type it in the chat here. Sometimes we're able to get to it while we're talking. Other times we'll just follow up. But
Mhm.
we may mention you on air, and you'll be a part of the show. So what we like to do is, Wendy, we like to start with two truths and a lie. I think it's a pretty
Oh.
cool icebreaker. And no one's asked me to participate in it yet, so
Oh,
I'm gonna hold off on mine.
okay.
But I love asking guests to give their two truths and a lie, and then people that are watching can participate and join.
All
So,
right.
what are your two truths and a lie?
All right. Oh, so two truths and a lie. So I once played Betty Rubble in a parade. Um, I my favorite place to travel to is Paris, France. And last, um, I have been married for 17 years.
All right, so this has to be the hardest one, and I tell you why. Because if it's the marriage one, it could be true if you've been married for 17, but it could be a lie if you were married for 15, 13, or
Right?
37.
That was
Uh,
a very specific number, wasn't it?
the travel one could be difficult because you may love to travel, and I know you do. You travel the world, you speak at conferences, and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff, but you may not love Paris. So
Yeah.
that's a tough one. And then, I mean, I know you're great and you may have been in theater programming, but Betty Rubble, that is a very specific role.
Well, and
So,
I wonder how many people listening know who Betty Rubble even is. You
you
know.
know, that's a great question. That's a great question. Now, there may be a younger millennial crowd or Gen Z who remembers the Flintstones with Holly Berry in it,
Oh,
but
true.
but
Yeah.
outside of that, though, you have to be a particular age and up to even appreciate the role of Betty Rubble and
Yeah.
know what cast of characters that's in to some place.
Kind of
Uh,
kind of a flashback there, back to I didn't watch it live. I'm not that old, but the reruns were pretty regular when I was a kid. So
yeah, you
yeah.
know, I joke sometimes because some days when I'm getting dressed and I have to figure out what to wear, I'm like, I just want to be like Fred Flintstone, like Steve Jobs, where I just
Right?
open the closet and it's just like
One
seven of
thing.
the same shirt.
I just have one thing that I wear. I don't have to think about it. I kind of miss uniforms.
Yes,
For that
yes,
reason.
yes.
There's, and that's, I guess, that's another good way when people have that spirit wear or their branded stuff to encourage folks to wear regardless. It's kind of nice because, like, all right, I'm throwing on the polo and pair of jeans and we're going to call it good.
Right, right. You know, and I have no shame in my game. I would still wear the same thing because I knew it was clean and it was a different
Mhm.
one. It's not the same one from Monday.
Right, right. I
we're
love it.
so sidetracked, but this is what happens when you talk to your friends and you
I
catch
love
up.
it. I love it. Yes.
All right, so two truths. Hey Tracy, Tracy's
Hi,
joining us.
Tracy.
Tracy
Yay.
Tracy had a pretty cool two truths and a lie last week. For those who didn't catch it. Hey Mary, Mary, we got to get you on the show.
Yes.
I need to DM you about that. So
Yes. Get Mary on for
yeah,
sure.
we were
For
just talking
sure.
about you, Mary. So all right, can you recap your two truths and a lie though? Because I
Okay.
sidetracked this
To
totally.
remember. All right. So I was once Betty Rubble in a parade. Paris is my favorite place to travel to. Um, and I've been married for 17 years.
All right, if anyone wants to guess, we'll give you 20 seconds to guess in the chat. I am going to go with. I don't think Paris is your favorite place. That's
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 yours?
the lie for me. I don't think
Okay.
Paris is your favorite place. Am I wrong?
No, you are correct.
Yeah.
I've actually never been to Paris. It is on my list. I want to go, um, but I have never been. So I can't say that it's my favorite place to travel to because I've never been there.
Tracy said Paris too, so she's a winner as
Okay,
well.
she's a winner as well. Awesome. Stickers are coming. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in college, out in the Black Hills of South Dakota, there was a little tourist attraction called Flintstone's Bedrock City, where they had the Bedrock City all laid out. And I worked there for one summer and was pulled into the parade to be Betty Rubble.
They said, Wendy, we've got a job for you, and only
Yep,
you can do it. We
pretty
need
much.
you to play Betty Rubble.
Because you're the only one that works for us that fits into the costume.
Well, that's a what is that? BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualifications.
Exactly.
Got to be able to fit. So
Got to fit into the uniform.
Tracy says she loves stickers.
All
So
right.
you've got to send her a HR social half hour one, and
Of course.
I have to create some winning at work ones to send
You do.
because that
I
would be fun.
The stickers are fun, and I'll send you the sticker mule link. They have super deals all the time. I actually just bought some coasters with
Okay,
the Wonder Woman logo on it, and it was 50 coasters for $19. So
that is
yeah, pretty
that's a
good deal.
steal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a steal. Yeah, that's awesome. So if Paris isn't your favorite
Yeah.
place to travel, then where's your favorite place?
That's hard. I always say Australia because I've been there when I worked for United Airlines before 9/11. That was like my big trip that I took. I went out, spent a week in Sydney, and it was so beautiful. I would love to go back, hoping to get there again someday. Um, in the States, honestly, I love going out to the Black Hills of South Dakota. It's so pretty out there. It's usually quiet if you go kind of off season. Stay away from summer. Stay away from the Sturgis Rally because it's nuts every year. Nuts in the Black Hills in August, but it's a beautiful place. It's usually a little bit out of the way. You can find little hole in the wall places, and just kind of enjoy the great outdoors.
Nice. Well, I haven't made it to that part of the U.S. yet, but on your recommendation, I may
Yeah.
have to get out there.
So
And
come out, start in Sioux Falls, and come see me because I'm on that side. I'm on the opposite side of the state, and then I'll give you directions. Pretty much just head west from Sioux
all
Falls,
right,
and you'll hit it.
all right, all right. Well, so you mentioned something just now about working for an airline prior to September 11,
hmm
and that in and of itself was a huge tragedy that we all felt, whether we were in those areas or not. We felt it as a national tragedy. Um, and today we're talking about communication and communicating in crisis.
Yeah.
So take us back to 9/11, working for United, and what was that like to be on staff and knowing that the airlines were unfortunately a part of 9/11? What was that like?
It was a bit surreal because I was in Colorado at the time, so it was really early in the day for us when it happened. And I mean, I remember I had the TV news on, and they were talking about the Broncos, and I was just like, oh my God, isn't there something better to talk about? I don't say that anymore. um, but you're just kind of going through the motions. We were at home and we all went to work, and pretty much somebody brought in a TV, and we just sat around watching the TV all day, waiting to hear. Spent a lot of time just waiting to hear about the last airplane. That fourth airplane was a United aircraft, and so we were waiting to see because we knew we had an aircraft missing. Um, I worked in HR. I worked in recruitment at the time, so we weren't at the airport, which I'm really glad about. We were
Hmm.
off site. Um, but that week after was really just kind of going through motions. We knew we weren't going to be hiring. We didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of silence.
Mm.
um, Nobody knew what to do. No one had no one had been through this. This isn't on your list of emergency preparedness, of things to be prepared for. um, but it was probably less than 2 weeks later when people started getting furloughed,
Mm.
and pretty much all the HR offices went down to maybe one person in each office. They furloughed everybody, and about 2 months later, officially laid us all off.
Mm.
So we had to go through. We filled out paper forms for unemployment. We did that all together in our
Mm.
office, and
Mhm.
took the paper forms down to the unemployment office. Um, it was really, you look back at it, and very few people had cell phones. I think we had pagers in our office.
Beepers,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
beepers. My husband was working for a newspaper, or a news company in Michigan at the time. And so he and I couldn't talk for, it was probably a week, because he was pretty much on call 24/7 through the first week or so.
Now, was he in
On that.
Michigan while you were in Colorado? And
Yes. So we were dating at the time. We weren't
gotcha.
married.
Okay, yeah. There's the whole
um,
17 years. You can tell
yeah.
took me a little while. Okay, 17 years. Got it. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so that was right before. So it was just, it's interesting to look back. And we actually just did a panel of recruiting through recession with Kirsten Greggs and Tiffany Keel, Josh Rock, and I, because we've all been in the industry. We've all been recruiting since 9/11, or
Yeah.
before that. And so we spent some time talking about how different life was then compared to where we are now. It's a recession, but it's different because the pandemic is affecting us all differently than 9/11 did. You
Yeah.
know, People went back to work after 9/11. You weren't at home. You weren't locked up at home for months and months and months trying to figure out what was going on. But the communication back then was also a lot different because you didn't have that instant access to information like we do
Mhm.
now. The internet was new. It was
Yep.
there, but it was pretty new for everybody to use. Um, and we didn't know what to believe, what not to believe. There was no social media to share stories instantaneously like there is now.
Mhm.
um, so you look back at it like, how did we find out about things? How did we know what was going on? And it was, you're waiting for those emails to come through from leadership on what's going on. You're waiting for a phone call or a page
Yep. Yep.
page to call somebody back. And my when I found out I got laid off, it was a phone call.
Mm.
Which people would say now, don't call somebody, don't, at least video.
Yeah.
We didn't have video chats then. Not everyone had a video camera to be able to do that like we do now.
Or a
We all have
laptop, probably.
a mobile device with a phone with a video on it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about where we were then, and how far it is now. And I did comment to my husband, if we're going to have a pandemic in our lifetime, I'm kind of glad that it's now, where we do
Mhm.
have the technology to be able to keep people safe and working at home and have that instant communication of what's going on. So I think that's a lot of where uh, a lot of things that I've learned about communication started back in at 9/11, when it was, again, it was just quiet. I
Yeah.
just remember quiet after that, because we didn't know what was going on, and we couldn't. You had to wait for somebody to call somebody to call somebody. Um,
That's interesting you mentioned quiet because I feel like, this era that we're in now, the last thing you would expect is quiet because there's so much noise between social
mhm.
media and perspectives and television and lives, like us going on
Right,
and
live
sharing our
stream.
thoughts. So that's interesting. Really quick, Mary says that recruiting in a recession panel was fabulous, and she has three exclamation points on it. So it was good. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed the discussion and the live tweeting during. Highly recommend when hashtag HR Social Hour releases as podcast episode to check it out. Hashtag recruiting in a recession covered 9/11, 2008, and the 2020 pandemic, which for many of us who are watching this, we have lived through each of these, right?
Yeah.
So, what makes this one different than 9/11 and 2008? You mentioned, we all went back to work after 9/11, or in
Yeah.
my case, I went back to high school after they shut it down for a few
Yeah.
days. But how, as an HR professional, how is this one different than the other two?
It's not just the technology. I think there's a different expectation now to what is shared and how it's shared. You know, even in 2008, I can remember a few employee panels or employee sessions where the CEO would come out and talk about what was going on, share updates. And again, even in 2008, we weren't utilizing the internet the same way we are now. It's completely different. There, no social media. Again, social
Mhm.
media is so new. I think we forget how new to our world social media really is, and how big it's gotten in just a few years. Um, but you still didn't have a lot of that instantaneous communication. You didn't have a lot of that transparency of what was going on. And I see now a lot more transparency. There's a lot of leaders that are being very vulnerable in sharing. Um, my organization have been very proud of how much information they've shared. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had senior leadership sharing video updates weekly with here's what's going on, here's where we are, here's what we're working towards, and keeping that information to the forefront. I look to the Marriott CEO, and he put out a video fairly quickly after everything started shutting down, very shared, very vulnerable, very up to date with, we don't know what's going on. Here's what we're going to try to do. Very short and to the point. So I think there's, we're not expecting our leaders to have all the answers, and our leaders are being okay with
Mhm.
not having all the answers and sharing what they know in smaller bite-sized pieces, as opposed to, oh, we have to wait till we have all the answers, and then we'll send out an email, or we'll put it on the intranet so that only our employees can see it. It's knowing that and I think more leaders know that, whether you can say something's private, but your employees are going to share it, because they always have.
They always have.
They always have.
It's gonna end up on BuzzFeed or
Yep.
TMZ or somewhere,
Yep.
you know.
So you need to take that time and share with people what's going on, even if you don't know. And people are going to appreciate that, and they're going to want to be a part of that. And I think when this is over and some of those, like the Marriotts of the world, reopen up, you're going to see people flocking to go there. I think they're going to want to work someplace where leadership tells them what's going on and doesn't keep them in the dark.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, this generation that we're in now, this era that we're in now, we are finally starting to value empathy and
Hmm.
transparency over having all of the facts together in one
Yeah.
place. And it's super important because the bottom line is people don't necessarily care if you have all the answers or know the right answer or when we're going to return to work or where can I find this in the handbook. They
Hmm.
just want to know that you care and
Right.
that there's something that you have to say. um, Tessa on Periscope, aka our Twitter feed, says
Hey, Teresa.
it's so much easier. Yeah, hey Tessa, it's so much easier to share and spread those messages now. The pace of information is so fast. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a eh, chief chief tweeter in office now, where the pace of thoughts, feelings, and opinions are just 240 characters away.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't recommend that when it comes to communicating in a crisis, but
No.
I will say, to your point, you know, understanding that people crave information instantaneously or sooner rather than later,
Hmm.
a major key in communicating in crisis as an employee, as a leader, as a manager, is to just come to people with what you can as soon as
Hmm.
you can.
It's true, and I struggle with this too because I grew up and live in an era of no news is good news. That's just how it is. So I still struggle with, oh, what am I, oh, I don't need to share anything because there's nothing to update. Everything's fine. Everything's moving ahead. But that's not necessary. That people want to know, yes, everything's moving forward. They want to know that everything's on track. So it's not even just from the leadership perspective, but from each one of us, as we do better about sharing what's going on, sharing what we're working on, even if you feel like there's no update to give, tell them, hey, nothing's changed. We're still moving forward. We're still progressing towards our goal. And laying that out can be extremely meaningful. And like I said, I'm still learning that message
Yeah.
because it's really easy to say, yeah, nothing's going on. What am I? I'm supposed to update you? I'm fine. Everything's fine. I don't need any help.
Yeah. I think I'm struggling with that too, because I think what we have to account for in this day and age more so than before is we're understanding that communication is as much about what we say and as much as it's perceived by other people.
Hmm.
And we have to take into account our team, whether it's a large 10,000 member staff or a smaller team of 3, 4, 5, 10,
Hmm.
and realize that your silence could be interpreted differently than you expect it or perceive it to be interpreted.
Yes.
So, what do you think about that? What do you think about needing to realize how other people perceive action or inaction, silence or speaking?
I think it's Cy Wakeman that talks about, people are going to make up their own stories. So if you don't tell them what's going on, they're going to make up their own story anyway. And so the perception, what no communication can mean to people is that you're not doing anything, that you're not working towards that solution or working on whatever it is that's been assigned to you or wherever your responsibilities lie. So having that ongoing open communication, and I think that comes from the top down in an organization, that leadership needs to mirror that. They need to show that that's what they want by leading by example and
Hmm.
saying, I'm going to come out and tell you we don't know what's going on or everything's moving forward. Great job. So that comfort level comes to the rest of the world to say, oh, yeah, it is okay for me to say, hey, everything's moving forward. Everything's great. Thanks. Thanks for your support. Um, just to keep that moving forward. And, there's different projects that I've worked on that, you get that feedback of like, people don't know what's going on. Like, well, there's nothing going on right now. Oh, I guess I should probably share that. Hey, we're
Yeah.
just waiting. We're waiting for the vendor. We're waiting for this. We're waiting for that. Those are all things that people need to know and want to know. And again, the more information you give up front, and hey, this is good advice for marriage too. In any relationship, the information you give up front is it lessens any blow at the end. People are going to be on your side. They're going to be supportive. They're going to help you, especially when you screw up. Anyone who has kids, as your daughter gets older, Joey, what's
Yeah.
gonna, what upsets you more, and we see this even in politics. Okay, yeah, you screwed up. Okay, you lied, you did whatever. What we care more about is that you tried to cover it up,
Yeah.
that you lied about it, that you didn't bring us in to help fix it.
Yeah.
So I think there's and again, I'm going to be honest, I struggle with this, so I'm preaching to myself on it. But getting to that point where we get comfortable with it,
Yeah.
and we haven't been to a point. We're not at that point for sure, and hopefully we can raise our children to be a little more comfortable, and maybe social media will help that, because we're sharing the mundane of our lives that people like to complain about. I don't care what you had for lunch. Yes, you do, because it was a beautiful hamburger. Let's share more. Let's be more open and not put people down because they're sharing.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make that connection.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this too. I know that this 30 minutes has gone by so fast.
It goes so
Um,
fast.
we've got to do it again soon, but let's flip the conversation a little bit. I
Okay.
think we are having this conversation. We're orienting it towards leaders of people, which is a pretty important group. But when it comes to communicating in crisis, what what advice would you have for employees that want to maybe broach a difficult topic with leadership, or an employee who wants to tell their boss what's on their mind, but maybe they're afraid?
Yeah.
Uh, what advice would you have to communicate up the chain as opposed to down the chain? Because
Oh
it sounds
yeah.
like you've been on both sides of it. So what would you have wished you knew from September 11, and what would you tell employees that are going through the pandemic right now?
I think the biggest thing is that leadership doesn't care if you ask questions. And maybe that's the wrong way to put it. Maybe it's more leadership wants you to ask the questions. That you're not going to get punished, because I think that's some of it, and especially around like the Black Lives Matter movement. And if you don't see your organization doing something and you want them to, you need to ask the questions. And if you don't feel comfortable going to your chain of command or whatever, find someone, talk with somebody in your office. Somebody else is thinking the same thing. We've said that, if you have a question, someone else probably has the same question, but maybe they're too shy to ask. But find like-minded people and go together. Send an email. If you really don't want to go talk to somebody, an email's fine too, just to say, hey, um, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement's going on, and nothing's coming from our leadership about it. We're not hearing anything. We're not seeing anything. What is our organization doing to support it or to support Black lives? We feel like we need to do more. We feel like we need to see something. So feel free to use the we.
Mm.
And even if you don't know if anyone's there, use the royal we, so they think there might be other people involved with it, because you'll be surprised. I saw it come out when our leader put something out about, hey, we're going to make some changes to what we're doing in our recruitment process to better promote diversity. So here's some ideas, and here's some things we want to do. Let's put a group together. And when I got together with that group, I was so surprised at how many people really cared about that issue. And for a long time I thought, oh, it's just me, so I'm going to work away in my little corner of the world to make it better. But there's other people that think like you. So
Yeah.
find your friends, find your allies, find people. And even if you're at home and you can't just like run into somebody, send them an email and say, hey, we had a great conversation about XYZ. I'm wondering, what do you think about this? To get some help, so you don't have to do it alone.
I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you said leadership doesn't mind asking, or you
They
asking.
don't.
we have this stigma of like, oh, I'm troubling the supervisor, or
Yeah,
I don't want to bother my boss. What they're doing is so important. It's more important than my question. No, say something
say
because
something.
they want to know. And yeah, great advice to go in a group,
Yeah,
because that way they know that hey, this must be important if more than one person is
right.
coming to me about it. No, this is super cool advice. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it, and kudos to you for learning in the pandemics prior and leading in the pandemic that were, well, I guess the others weren't pandemics, but just
no, thank
uh,
God.
issues, crises. Crises is the
Crises.
word that we're going with
Yeah,
today. Crises, for learning in
crises.
other crises and taking your learnings and applying that for today. Do you have any parting thoughts you want to share with everyone that's tuned in live or who will catch the replay? Any events that you want to promote, or how can people find you and your podcast online?
Sure. I think I'm done with events for the season. So hopefully next year we'll be out and about and be able to see each other in person. But I am always happy to connect on Twitter, Wendell93. That is where I spend most of my social media time. Hope y'all go listen to the HR Social Hour Half Hour podcast. We are wherever you listen to podcasts. We're probably there. But we do share via LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter when a new episode comes out. And we have tomorrow, October 1st, we have a Where Are They Now episode with Nicole Roberts and Georgette. I don't have her last name in front of me, but she's out of Florida, and got to catch up with the two of them. And it was fantastic to do that. So we love chatting with our friends, and we're starting to plan our 150th episode.
Woohoo!
Crazy, but
Time goes
it's
by
awesome.
fast. That's
It
awesome.
does.
That's
It
awesome.
does.
And I'm just gonna throw this out in the atmosphere for those event planners, conference planners in Paris who want to
Yes.
get Wendy to talk about communicating in a crisis. You know how to reach her. She just gave all of her handles
Yes.
and everything. So book her.
I'll come. I'll come. I would love that. We've been. I actually did last week. Did my very first international event with Francisco Reyes and the VEHR Summit, which was so much fun. So much
Nice.
fun. He did a great job. So next time, hopefully, we can actually go to Spain. That would be even better.
Oh yeah, there you go. Maybe you lay over in Paris
There we
and
go.
then go to Spain.
I just need
That's
to be in
pretty
Paris
cool.
long enough to drink wine and eat cheese.
Probably can do that in the airport. Well, Wendy, it's been a blast as
This was awesome.
always
Yes.
talking with you. And thank you for tuning in to Winning at Work, career boosting conversations with HR's leading voices. If you love this episode and you see it on your social feed, give it some love, reshare it, share it with the world. And we'll see you next week, same time, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Have a great day and keep winning at work.